All right, let me ask you something. What if all the copies we've made of the world, the photos, the movies, the news stories, have somehow become more real than the world itself? That's the mind-bending idea we're tackling today, from Jean Baudrillard's book Simulacra and Simulation. We're about to dive into a world where the map has totally, completely replaced the territory.
Baudrillard kicks things off with this one line that just flips everything we think about reality completely on its head. I mean, for all of human history, we've assumed the world, the territory, came first, and then we made maps to represent it. Makes sense, right? Well, Baudrillard says, nope, not anymore. That whole relationship has been turned completely upside down.
And that leads us to the absolute core question of his entire work. Seriously, what happens when our representations, our models, our simulations, what happens when they become more real, more important than the actual reality they were supposed to be describing? What happens when the map isn't just a guide to the territory, but it is the territory?
To help us wrap our heads around this, Baudrillard brings up this old fable by the writer Jorge Luis Borges. The story goes like this. In a great empire, a group of map makers create the perfect map. It's so detailed, so precise, that it's the exact same size as the empire itself. It literally covers the entire territory, point for point.
Now, in the original story, over time, the map frays and rots away, and the actual physical land is what remains. But here's Baudrillard's terrifying twist. He says in our world, the exact opposite has happened. The real world itself, the territory, has rotted away, and all we have left is the map. The simulation is all there is.
And this is where we get to a really crucial term, the precession of simulacra. Precession just means to come before. So what he's saying is that our models of reality now come first. They precede the real. In fact, they actually generate what we think of as real. It's wild. We're not copying the world anymore. The world is now copying our copies.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth did we get here? Well, Baudrillard says it wasn't some overnight switch. He actually lays out this four-stage evolution, this kind of slow, creeping death of reality, showing how our images have gotten more and more disconnected from any real truth. Let's walk through them.
Okay, let's break this down. Phase 1 is simple. The image is a faithful copy. Think of a basic, unedited photo of an apple. It represents a real apple. That's a good copy. Then comes Phase 2, where the image starts to distort reality. Think of a glossy fast food ad. That burger looks way too perfect, right? That's because it's an evil copy designed to trick you. In Phase 3, the image hides the fact that there's no reality there at all. Think of an influencer's perfect online life that has zero connection to their actual, messy human existence. And finally, Phase 4. The image has no relationship to any reality whatsoever. Think of Mickey Mouse. He's not a copy of a real mouse. He is his own reality, right from the start.
And that fourth stage, that's the endgame. That's the world of the pure simulacrum. It's a copy that was never a copy to begin with. It's a sign that has become its own reality. And Baudrillard's big, bold claim is that this is the world we are all living in right now.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty academic and abstract, but what does a world full of simulacra actually look like? What does it feel like? Well, Baudrillard has a name for this new space. He calls it the hyperreal, a world where the fake has become even more real than the real thing.
The hyperreal is basically a manufactured reality. It's often cleaner, shinier, more exciting, just more perfect than the messy, unpredictable real world. It's a reality built from our models, and let's be honest, we often prefer it. Now, to really get this, we have to look at Baudrillard's most famous and maybe weirdest example.
Get this. According to Baudrillard, the most real place in all of America isn't the White House or Wall Street. It's Disneyland. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a place that's famous for being totally fake be the most real?
Here's the trick, and it's brilliant. Disneyland is constantly telling you that it's imaginary, it's a fantasy. And its real job is to make everything outside its walls, Los Angeles, America, your life, feel real by comparison. But for Baudrillard, that's the ultimate deception. Disneyland isn't there to be a fantasy. It's there to hide the fact that the real world you drive home to is just as much of a simulation.
He gives another great example with the prehistoric Lascaux caves in France. The original, ancient caves are now closed to protect them. But don't worry, right next door, they've built a perfect, full-scale replica you can tour. By creating this flawless copy, the original cave somehow becomes less real, the line between the real and the fake just dissolves, and they both become part of the same hyperreal show.
And this logic, it doesn't just apply to theme parks and tourist traps. Baudrillard argues it's at the very core of our politics and our media, especially when it comes to how we deal with crises and scandals.
So, let's take the Watergate scandal. We all know the story, right? It's the classic tale of the system working, brave journalists exposed corruption, the bad guys went down, and justice won. But Baudrillard tells us to look a little closer. Was that really what was going on?
His argument is pretty shocking. He says Watergate wasn't a real scandal that broke the system. It was a simulated scandal that was designed to save the system. By putting on this big, dramatic show of good versus evil, the system made us all believe in its morality again. It made us believe it could fix itself. It was like a vaccine, a small, contained dose of scandal to hide the much bigger truth, that what Nixon did was just business as usual for how power really works.
So the real punchline is this: we're not trying to hide scandals anymore. We're actually staging them, simulating them, to hide the much scarier fact that there might not be any real moral principles left to be scandalized in the first place.
Okay, so if our tourist spots are hyperreal and our politics are just simulations, where in the world does that leave us? Well, Baudrillard paints a pretty grim but fascinating picture of where we are now. He says we're basically in a state of collective panic. We feel deep down that the real is disappearing, so we're desperately and frantically trying to produce more and more of it. Just think about our obsession with reality TV, with historical reenactments, our endless online search for authentic experiences. It's all just a panicked attempt to manufacture something real because we've lost the original.
And all of this frantic producing leads us here to his most famous phrase, the one that got picked up by the movie The Matrix. We find ourselves living in the desert of the real itself, a vast, barren landscape where all we can find are the shimmering mirages of the simulation. So after this whole journey, what should you take away? Let's recap. First, our world is built more and more on simulacra, on copies that have no originals. Second, hyperreal places like Disneyland are designed to make the rest of the simulation we live in feel real. Third, even our biggest political scandals are often just performances meant to restore our faith in a system that's already gone. And finally, we're living in the hyperreal, a simulation so total we can't even tell the difference anymore.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question to think about. If Baudrillard is right, if the map really has replaced the territory, what does that say about the reality of your own life, your own memories, your own identity?